Coming to you live from the Illegal Shift / One More and I'm Out of Here studios. We are here with a very, very special edition of the One More and I'm Out of Here podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this one. I've been geeking all day, actually all last weekend, when buddy of mine, Tim, buddy of mine from the Warthogs Motorcycle Club that I've talked about multiple times on this podcast, approached me Thursday and said, I've got a story for you that you need to hear and your people need to hear it. And I'm not going to sit here and gab. I'm going to bring in, we got Tim and Scott, we've got Amanda, and we've got Paul. And I'm going to let every one of them introduce themselves, and give a quick bio, and then we'll get into the meat of why we're here. So we can start with Tim.
Great. Hey, Jason, thanks for having us on. And like you said, Thursday, I do have a story to tell. This is the first time that we're able to kind of release it and make it public. But I'm from Tours of Duty. I'm also student president of Warthogs. That's my fun life. And the Warthogs, police and fire, motorcycle club. We try to give back to our fallen police officers and firefighters. So with that, I've known Jason for a long time. I'm also Brunswick Hills Police Chief. Been a chief out here going on 12 years. Prior to that, I was overseas, did dignitary protection with Paul. You'll meet Paul here. Good friend of mine. We did a lot of things all over Iraq. And before that, I was with Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office in Cleveland, Ohio. And God's been blessing me throughout my whole career. And with this next mission right here with Tours of Duty, it just all came together. So we have something great for you tonight, and pass it on to Scott.
How you doing, folks? Scott Rhoda here, U.S. Army Airborne Medic. After the military, I became a firefighter paramedic, retired from the city of Berea, and now I spend all my time taking care of veterans in the community, making sure they have a safe place to live, and bringing home our missing soldiers and service members through Tours of Duty. So I've got a lot of good heart stuff going on. So I'm pretty proud of the work that Amanda started here.
So let's go to Amanda.
Thank you. And thank you for having us, and to your listeners and viewers for taking the time to hear us tonight. So my name is Amanda Rutledge. I'm CEO and founder of Tours of Duty. Had the privilege of working with Tim and Paul and a great number of other guys, giants overseas in Iraq, and spent several years over there. And then coming home, got a front row seat to what it's like for these incredible men, these warriors, to reintegrate and the challenges that they face, and started looking for a mission to reconnect them to their core purpose, to the thing that means the most to them, and align that with the POW mission, which we'll talk about here tonight. But that's how Tours of Duty came about. And I just have so much appreciation and respect for everyone who's served, everyone that I've worked with over there. They do some incredible things and offer up everything they have, including their lives. And I just believe we need to do better for all of them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we got Paul.
Hey, Jason. Paul Slough, thank you for having us on, and thank you for your viewers and listeners just taking their time either evening to hang out with us this evening. I take care of outreach and a little bit of government relations with the primary focus of really just trying to create that awareness and help folks understand the need that exists. A lot of folks don't understand that we have 80,000 MIAs that exist right now in the world, and recently we just got back from France for the 80th D-Day commemoration, and in northern France alone you've got 1,500 MIAs, which is equivalent to what's in Vietnam currently. So it's a big mission, it's a big undertaking, and it's something that we don't take lightly.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are here, and just talking with Tim over the weekend, hearing the story. I mean, I got goosebumps because, I mean, the way he put it, and talking to friends of mine leading up to this, a lot of people don't know that this is happening. So that's why I think this is huge, and I appreciate the opportunity for you guys bringing this to us. The One More and I'm Out of Here podcast first, whatever. But I think this is huge, and we have a big first responder veteran following, and I think this could go way far. So, however you guys want to start, like I said, I'm just controlling the rudder. You guys are controlling the throttle, but we've got I'm on no time frame, so this could be a long episode for anybody that's listening.
Jason, that's good because we might have to come back on for another hour, but we're going to give you guys as much information that we can release right now. There's some details that we can't put out. Unfortunately, our investigations are kind of hindering us to that. But again, Paul's right. There's 80,000 U.S. soldiers that have been missing throughout our conflicts, throughout these wars, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And the war that, I was involved in was dignitary protection, and Paul was right there with me. And we lost 43 of our comrades that were with us. And, not to say a good thing, but one of the good things is those families, those Gold Star families, had closure. Those 43 families, they knew that their loved ones were coming home. And it's kind of, been my thing after I left. And, I do serve on another board that's Memorial, Blackwater Alumni Memorial Association. And that is just to keep the memorial of our fallen and keep them in our remembrance. And the good thing is, I know their families, and I know that their wives and children, and I could speak and talk to them and kind of console them with their hurt of losing a loved one in a war or overseas. The unfortunate thing is there's 81,000 parents, children, cousins, you name it, family members and friends, where their loved one went to battle for our country and never came back. And I think the main goal of Tours of Duty is, there's roughly probably 38,000, the number that we're kicking around of actual soldiers that we think we could recover them. We think that we could find that closure for those Gold Star families that, from 1969. And Scott's going to really get in depth on that, where a loved one hasn't been home. The parents are no longer with us. There's, very few survivors. And it's a war that it's long gone. A lot of us forgot about it. And I think in this country, we need to start being aware of what this country and what our military guys have always stood up for. And it's don't leave a man behind. And I think the main goal of Tours of Duty is we're not going to let that happen. We're going to investigate this. Tours of Duty is a 501c nonprofit organization. This is totally funded by people that want to donate to us. We're volunteers.
Question I was just going to ask. How are you guys funded?
All grassroots donations, and we're all volunteers.
Okay. That's I mean, that alone is phenomenal work in the fact that, all of the volunteering. Obviously I've got the website ticking across the bottom, toursofduty.org. Anybody that's listening, watching, please go hit them up, learn a little bit more. You're going to learn a ton, in this hour or hour plus, whatever. But please support this. But as you hear it, I think you're going to want to. So how did this originate outside of the fact that obviously we know that we have people that are still over there? What was the one pin drop that said, you know what, we're doing this?
So I think that there were a few things that really came together for starting the organization. It really surrounded the veteran needs and the veteran cause, and trying to get them to reconnect to that mission of purpose, and then empowering them to use these incredible skill sets and experiences that they have that too often when they come home go overlooked by the regular corporate world or whatever they might be employed in. And then when we really started learning about the POW MIA issue, to find out that we had over 81,000 who are still missing. And by the DKA's own account, believe that more than 38,000 are recoverable. We just really, again, felt that it was important to align our veterans with what they excel at and what they want to do, and then bring some closure to these families. Listening to some of the stories of how many of them have been discarded for so long, go years at a clip without any answers, and don't really have the support that they need and deserve in trying to navigate all of this. It really just became a mission that we couldn't say no to it.
So my question, and obviously we're in a very heightened political climate right now. So you guys, you're a grassroots, privately funded organization. Where's the government tie into this? Why isn't the government doing this?
So the DPA is the agency who is responsible for MIA recovery. They are not formally, but they are mandated to cover a minimum of 200 per year of 38,000. They're a well-funded organization. Their budget is just under 200 million a year. But if you talk to their analysts, to their researchers, they will also tell you that they are very understaffed and under-resourced. Just last year, they put out that for the Vietnam analysts, they are only able to attribute 1 hour per case per year to do investigations. And that really just involves updating their case summary. So we just really feel that we can augment and support. And we know that there are a great many incredible people at DPA who really their heart is in this for the right reasons, and they sacrifice a lot to do this too. So I don't want to knock those people because
Sure.
They have a very challenging mission. But we certainly see a place where we can support and augment and just, again, do better for our veterans and do better for our Gold Star families.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so where do we want to go? Because I could go 18 different ways of Sunday with this. Do we want to get into one of the missions, or do you want to talk about past missions? How do you guys want to roll with this?
I think we'll turn it over to Scott right now,
Okay.
and we'll get the basics of how this first mission came about, how the family members of this fallen warrior didn't return home, and how we got this case going. And then we'll call it the mission number one and how we recovered one of our soldiers.
First mission, there were 4 members of Tours of Duty present for this mission. Bill Lachey, Ned Hubbard, myself, and Vic Musante. The 4 of us, we were tasked to go to Vietnam and help look for 4 members, Army members, service members that were shot down. It was supposedly the very last helicopter to ever be shot down in the Vietnam War. There were rescue attempts. The pilots that attempted to rescue them, were taking heavy fire, couldn't get close enough, but they did see that there were survivors. The family of the pilot, Nikki Wilson, the sister, her name is Lori. She has been dedicating, much of her adult life to finding out what happened to her brother. And she had done some research. She had talked to locals in the area where they knew the helicopter went down. She started asking a bunch of questions, and after she started asking questions is when the government finally was able to locate where the helicopter crash site was. They exhumed the area, and they only found the remains of 2 of our soldiers. The other 4 soldiers that were on the helicopter, they had some teeth, but they didn't have anything definitive saying that, these were the other 4 individuals. Regardless, DPA took those teeth and they closed the case. They said it was definitive enough that, they were going to close the case. That wasn't good enough for Linda. She kept asking questions, year after year. She spent, trip after trip, going and making new connections. And eventually, I want to say 12 years ago, if my memory serves me correct, she was actually approached by a woman who said she was in charge of the North Vietnamese army. And she was in charge at the time, and that she said that she knew that they were executed.
So Lori, so just so I'm clear, and maybe the listeners / viewers. So Lori was going over there on her own, just making connections.
Yes, and as she found information, she would share it with our government, and she wasn't getting, any feedback. She wasn't being acknowledged, and she just kept doing this research. Finally, somebody came up to her and says, "You know what? We saw the execution. This is where they were buried." That's when the government got involved and they exhumed those 2 bodies. After the fact, she was approached by that woman who said she was in charge of the North Viet Cong army at the time in that particular region. She said that she had moved them, and she gave a rough area as to where she remembered moving them to. And again, Linda passed that information on. She was not acknowledged. She's telling everybody that, she could talk to, "Hey, I've got this issue. I've got this information. We need to do something with it." She was finally turned on to tours of duty, and we looked at the evidence. The evidence was credible. We had eyewitnesses, multiple eyewitnesses. We had a rough area where it might be. So our plan was to go in there with ground penetrating radar and drones, take a look at the area, run ground penetrating radar, and see if we can't narrow down the search area. So without getting into specifics, the woman did give a key location, to draw our, where she remembered the burial site being. And with that information, we finished the ground penetrating, radar of the area. We saw 2 potential locations that resembled a mass grave. The first location, if you want to pull up mission 1.
like I said, I'm probably going to screw these up, so don't be mad at me. Let's see. That one?
Yes.
Yes.
So we were given a large field, and in this field, they described a particular tree, and we chose, of the 2 locations where we had hits with the radar, we chose the one closest to the tree based on her description. So if you go forward,
let's see. This is where it gets tricky. I'm blaming Tim on all of this.
That's all right. I'll get better on my PowerPoints, huh?
Describe the picture that you want.
It'll be the one where the hole is starting to be dug. So this to the left is the tree. We started digging there. If you keep moving forward, the hole gets deeper. Eventually we get to the root system. In this picture here, you see the folks standing around, these Vietnamese locals that were helping us dig. Here, in communicating with them and thanking them for taking their time to come and help us dig to look for our soldiers, we find out that one of them was actually a South Vietnamese soldier that worked alongside the U.S. soldiers that were there, and then the other gentleman with the hat on was actually a North Viet Cong officer. He actually was a BC officer, and again, he being a soldier himself, he knew the importance of having a soldier come home to their family, and they were all there working side by side to help us accomplish.
And was that roughly 59 years later?
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely amazing, though, and the fact to have Vietnamese soldiers being involved.
Yes.
I mean, what do you? I mean, whatever your thoughts were on that at that time, but I mean, just right now, at that point in time, looking at this picture, I mean, just how it gives me chills.
Yeah.
Jason, one of the particular storylines that came out of this mission that really rang like a tuning fork in my own ear was a Vietnam or soldier, a U.S. soldier, and a VC soldier were digging for the remains of a U.S. soldier, and both men walked away with the attitude and with the saying that the war is finally over for me.
Yeah.
And to put that into context, you've got two men that have been struggling with their own demons for close to 60 years now, being able to walk away from an event for looking for the remains of a fallen soldier to say that the war is finally done it was mind-blowing to me and really priceless in terms of healing and restoration of a human being. It was really incredible.
And I can only imagine. I didn't serve in the military, but I mean, for you guys that served in the military, you guys were warriors and had a mission to accomplish, whatever it may have been. And then for you to come back, whether it's your own personal stuff or whether it was a uncle or grandfather or whatever, to have that unfinished, untied bow, for lack of a better term, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing to me, because all we hear and all we're taught is we see all the bad shit that went on in Vietnam, and you're seeing all the bad videos and the politics that were involved and everything else, and kids that didn't want to be over there,
right?
That had no choice. Go ahead. No, you're good.
We're finding the same closure for the families as well. We do allow family members to travel with us on these missions. They're able to just go and experience and see and get a grasp as to what it is that their loved one did or was or what might have occurred. And just that in itself is a lot of closure for them and a lot of healing for them. We know that we'll never be able to find everybody. We wish that we could, but many of them have said just the fact that people are taking the time to search and putting the effort into finding them after 50 plus years makes all the difference to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what you guys are doing. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it probably 18 more times, but what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. And again, privately funded, mind you, just completely blows it out of the water. And I asked Tim, I said, being a police chief, how the hell do you have the mindset to have the caseload that you have at work and then doing all of this? I said that to me amazes me as well. Not to take away from anything that the rest of you are doing. I know Tim better, but it's, I know I was an assistant chief for a period of time, so I knew what that was. Even going on vacation for a week was a nightmare.
Well, Jason, we have like one of the best teams on tours of duty. Amanda's put together some guys that, I mean, it's important. This Vietnam War was not my war. If you tell me about Iraq and different areas, mainly in Baghdad, I can navigate that area and go back. Hopefully, I mean, it was almost 20 years ago, Paul. We were over there, but you're talking 50 years. So Amanda's put together a team with Bill and Ned. Those guys actually served over there. They were shot down. Bill was shot down 7 times in Vietnam. So this man knows Vietnam. He's part of tours of duty. There's nobody that could speak and know that area better than those guys that actually stepped foot in that country. And that's what Amanda's put together. And I know future missions, that's what we need. We're looking for those veterans that were in that area that can, help us find those breadcrumb trails on where that comrade was lost at. So I think this is, do I have time? Nobody has enough time, but to find, like I said, I know I have closure with some of the fallen Blackwater guys and their families, and I know if I can find closure with some family right now that they know where their loved one is and they're coming home. That's my goal in it, and I think everybody here is volunteering. But I do have to give all the credit to Amanda for putting together a good team of guys that are dedicated to her mission and have that same heartfelt thought of bringing someone home?
I'll say we have the best volunteers in the world, and I mean that wholeheartedly. These guys have the passion and the drive, and it is amazing what a group of motivated, passionate volunteers can do and what they can accomplish. These guys are the mission, and they're the reason that we've had the success that we've had across the board.
Absolutely. Scott, I told you I was going to screw the order of these pictures up, so just keep yelling at me. It's fine.
All right.
I'm used to it.
Well, go to the picture with the lady in the yellow.
Got that one. Got
Yep.
that one. Nailed that one.
So that first hole we dug, it turned out to be a root cluster. So we dug down about 5.5 feet. We hit a giant root cluster, and we're very disappointed. The North Viet Cong officer that I pointed out earlier, through my translator, he had asked, "Why did you dig here?" And we told him about the tree, and that they were buried next to the big tree. And his eyes got real big, and he grabbed my shirt. He started talking to my translator, and the translator says, that wasn't the big tree when they were buried. He walks us 50 yards over to where the other mark was, and pushed all the weeds aside, pushed the ground aside, and underneath the overgrowth was a giant tree stump that we would have never known was there. And sure enough, we started digging that second location, got down 6 inches, and we started finding 10-pound river stones, just stacked on top of each other. And underneath that, there was, some more tiles that were underneath there. At that point, there was enough there that, we were confident that, there's more than likely, the site. So we turned that information over to DPAA to let them know what we had found.
Wow.
And from that, again, just working alongside, the locals. If you go, there's the one picture with the sisters and the daughters praying. These locals, they took them in, they took them to church. The community came together to pray that, we find their loved ones and their loved ones make it home. It was just an amazing experience for everybody. The community just opened arm, took us in and, did what they could possibly do to, make this come to fruition.
And I don't mean to sound ignorant. Would they call this a temple?
Yes.
Okay. So for our audio listeners, we've got a Vietnamese temple with the sisters of this fallen praying with the Vietnamese. They included them into their culture, which I think is absolutely awesome. And I'm sometimes terrible because we live stream all the time of not describing this to the audio listeners, but the picture is absolutely phenomenal.
And Amanda could fill in, after we, Scott found where we could go as far as we could and what the government's responsibility is. Now, Amanda can cover that.
Sure. So obviously with the discoveries that we had there, there's some things that are being analyzed, and we'll be able to release further information on that in the coming months. But we just want to be sensitive to the family and sensitive to the investigation going on. So
that's why I'm not asking many stupid questions. That's normal. That's normally me, by the way.
Yeah. There was a second mission on this past visit to Vietnam.
If I could hold up here 1 second. Sure. So back in January is when I went to the SHOT Show with Amanda, and Amanda was really, looking into LiDAR and different things and thermal imaging and, some things that I didn't know about, thermal imaging that, heat sources coming off the land on decomposing bodies. And I'm just like, Amanda, where are we going with this? Why are you asking these questions? And what are you doing? And that's first, you know, is this past January, and I found out, you know, Amanda's big plan on tours of duty and recovering our soldiers. And it was during that time that she said, "Yeah, I got a mission, a team going in February, and I'm looking for a medic, and I'm short a medic to go on this mission because we have some, you know, family, and we're bringing some, you know, some guys. We just want to make sure we have a medic. Every mission Paul and I ran in Iraq, we had a medic or two, didn't we, Paul?" And so I'm like, you know what? I have a guy. So I called Paul. I called Scott from Las Vegas at the SHOT Show. I said, "Hey, you interested in going to Las Vegas? I need a medic. You all up to date? You know how to do CPR and, you know, do what medics do, put on Band-Aids."
All right, keep going, please.
Yeah. So, and I don't think he took me seriously. So, you know, he hung up, and then, you know, I called him back and I said, "Here's the dates," you know, and he goes, "You're not joking. Are you really this for real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Amanda's going to be contacting you." And, okay. He's like, "Yeah, I got a trip with my wife. It's already booked and bought and paid for. Can't get a return on my flights." And sure enough, a month later, Scott, solid guy that he is. And again, like I said, God has always blessed me with guys around me that will step up, and if I ask them to do something to help me out, they jump right in there. But with this mission was real important, and Scott jumped in there and helped out towards the duty and helped out Amanda, and been a great team player. So
Absolutely.
now we'll let him get on to mission 2.
Is
part
Scott
about
still married after canceling that trip?
Well, you know what? Honestly,
It may not have been a trip.
she was
That's
a little upset with me, but then the sister of the pilot from that first mission had taken time to call me personally to thank me for going on the trip. My wife was in the background listening, and afterwards she just gave me a big hug and a kiss and said, "I always do the right thing." So it was, yeah, it was worth the missed trip. So,
all right. So we got mission 2.
mission 2. There was a report of a pilot that his plane crashed in the country of Laos. There were rumors, you know, scattered about that, you know, somebody in Vietnam had found the remains and brought them back to Vietnam and turned a bone chip and one of the dog tags over to the Americans. That was the only information that we had. We went to the where the record showed the approximate crash site was. We went along the Vietnamese border, and we started asking questions if anybody knew anything about a plane crash or, you know, a pilot being brought back, you know, to Vietnam. And the same name kept popping up, and eventually we were led to the family's home, talked to the family, and at first they were apprehensive. You know, the provincial police were there. You know, they were asking questions. They wanted to know, you know, why we were there, who we were. And then after about 45 minutes of them getting to know us, she opened up and told my interpreter, whispered in his ears. He jumped up. He walked past me, grabbed my shoulder, walked me to the backyard, and walked up to a shed and proceeded to tell me that the pilot was buried in their shed. 20 years ago, when he found the remains, nobody came to pick him up after he had turned over the bone fragment and the dog tag. So he didn't want anything to happen to him. So he buried him in the shed, concreted the floor, and then turned it into a temple. His family prays there every day for the past 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is unbelievable.
That's how much respect that they have for, you know, the dead. You know, granted, you know, we were at war. There's a lot of ill feelings, you know, but they wholeheartedly, you know, want to make sure that, you know, even to this day, you know, our MIA gets to come home.
But and again, what I said earlier, like that, you're not taught that. I'm 44 years old, and I had no clue. And I'm not the smart 44-year-old, but I had no clue that that these types of things were happening over there. Absolutely amazing. Oh man.
Unfortunately, when you talk to many people, even who currently serve in the military, they're not aware of the issue of how many men have never come home. It just really isn't publicized or people educated on it, and it's a shame because there are so many out there looking for answers and looking for closure for what they've been through.
Yeah.
And those men deserve to come home, and it's our responsibility, I believe, to take care of the ones who are left behind.
Yeah, I completely agree. We have a rule. I think I'm the only one drinking on this, but we have a rule that whenever 100% is said, you have to take a drink, and I agree 100%.
I'll be prepared next time.
We'll get the bar open next time.
I didn't give you the ground rules beforehand. Sorry. I figured the sign should have told you, but no, just kidding.
Well, we'll get into that because we do have some drinks for some people on who's supporting towards the duty and how we can be funded for the next missions.
Yes. I got to get those too. All right, so keep talking, Scott. What do you got?
Well,
I got more pictures to show, apparently.
Yeah.
More pictures to screw up, rather.
Yeah, mission 2. Start with that, and we can.
Yeah, if you want to show that one picture of the rocks, it just goes to show you, out of that whole big field, we dug down 6 inches, and that was the only area where there were stones like that. And the more we dug, the more we found.
So how roughly how deep, and not to be morbid, but roughly how deep were you guys having to go?
It's a shallow grave. You can tell it was done in a hurry and covered up. So it wasn't very deep at all.
So they would dig it shallow, throw rocks, and then throw dirt over the rocks. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. I got a couple other ones. Where's the LiDAR one? I'm assuming this is LiDAR.
That's actually the ground penetrating radar.
Okay.
So, yeah, what they do is they walk around that. They do grid patterns, and it tracks the radar signature, and they provide us a printout of what they see, and that's how we were able to locate those two spots.
So I'm going to be nerdy for a second and ask. All right, so who's versed in reading that? I guess. I mean, is it like reading a fish finder? I mean,
it's pretty much like reading a fish finder, but we had a contracted company at that time.
Okay, all right.
So our future goal is to have our own equipment. That way, we know it's maintained. We don't have the expense of hiring outside contractors. This is something it's going to be a huge investment for us, but it'll pay off, in the long run, tenfold.
Yeah. So I'm grabbing pictures that Tim sent me late. Everything's getting blamed on you, Tim. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But I don't want to leave anything.
I appreciate you putting this together. One day you're like, yeah, I can get you on. So here we are Wednesday talking about it and getting this important information out. I think it's important that, we get people aware of what Towards the Duty is, what we are, what our goals are, and if anybody can help out, and if there's even family members out there that are still looking and grieving the loss of one of their loved ones that didn't come back from war, they're a part of this investigation. Like Scott was saying, we wouldn't have known what to do if it wasn't for family members looking for their own lost loved ones. So there are more families out there. There are more, and I don't want these wars to be forgotten. Maybe our government wants it to be forgotten, but I don't want it. And there's still people that are living with this that their loved one is somewhere. So if you're out there and and you have information, contact us at Towards the Duty. Let us start working on that. Amanda's put together a great team of investigators. So a lot of this background research starts right here in the States, going through data files, going through military records, going through, and talking to people. And that's how all good investigators, work, is by talking, communication. So if you have something, contact us so that we can start working up a investigation packet on someone.
And that's one of the conversations you and I had briefly, as we were talking. I said, how do you get the information of a potential location? You don't even know. It's a potential. And as you were saying, it was just, points of contact and, little, and you said it earlier, breadcrumbs. And then, you guys digging down and hitting the root and getting that disappointment. It's like, all right, so how hard is it to, if you do hit a dead end, and you guys being, Tim, you being a cop, you've done that many times in your career, and you're like, oh, crap. I thought I had it, but I didn't. How do you build yourself back up to be like, okay, I mean, granted, obviously the thought of bringing somebody home, I understand that part, but it's like, man, I thought this was it.
Well, I think I'll pass that on Amanda, because right now Amanda has several more cases right now that are ready to go. And we're ready to go back to Vietnam, and all we need is the funding to go back there, and we can find this closure. So
I do want to recognize some people in our chats, though. They're Nathaniel Birdside. Appreciate the work y'all are doing there. It's God's work, which I completely and utterly agree. But we've got a lot of people in the chats, milling about around here. So just you guys are being listened to, so that which is huge. I think we've got 34 viewers currently right now sitting as it sits, and that's not counting what's going to happen after this. So
Jason, if I can offer just a little bit of a fine point on
absolutely
what everybody has kind of touched on. So I guess one of the best ways to describe these are a lot like cold case files. And I first heard that term from Amanda when she brought me on board. And at first, yeah, I accepted it, but I was like, nah, it can't be that hard. It can't be that difficult. Come on. But in reality, it is. And where we're finding the biggest source of relief and the biggest source of information is from family members and guys who were with these people. They still have rock solid memories of what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and everything that transpired after that has given us an immense amount of clues and information we didn't have before. And so when Tim and Amanda and Scott really drive that point home to say, hey, if you've got somebody or somebody, please reach out, because even anecdotal evidence that doesn't seem really significant can be that one missing link that puts the entire puzzle together that's been worked on for the last 60 years.
Yeah. And I guess put it in perspective, I mean, and I've never been in war and never been, in that situation, public service. I've got my own things where there's pinpoint runs that I remember that are ingrained. So right. I'm assuming that's on steroids when you're, obviously when you're, in a battleground or whatever, you remember certain things to be able to pass that along. So I that makes sense. It's just stuff that we take for granted, I guess, for the most part of, man, how do you find them? Our buddy Sniper, our buddy Wolfman from the Cincinnati chapter, until they all come home, which I think is absolutely perfect.
And to answer your question, how do you pick yourself up after that? Watching the team come back after this mission in Vietnam, not having those physical remains with them, and what they consider to be 100% slam dunk. A lot of them were deflated, and it was hard watching that, because that's not the goal of this for anybody. But if you look at it, when we first started this, someone very wise told me that the success is not in the finding, the success is in the searching. And that's searching and giving these families the answers and the closure, and taking the steps that have not been taken in 50 years that they've been begging for someone to go do. So looking at it through that lens and understanding that you are making a difference in the lives of the people who are still here, the ones who are left behind, is really what it comes down to. And you talk to these family members, and the minute you talk to a family member, we'll talk about Nadia a little bit later, but just being able to meet these incredible people and everything they've gone through, that picks you right back up, and you can't wait to go back and do it again.
If you need a medic, I'm available. Kind of, sort of. Just I'll figure it out.
We do definitely take sort of medics with us.
I've got 4 years till I retire, and then I'll have all kinds of time. But
well, I'm sure Amanda has a job for you. I seen one
I'm
of the
sure she
comments.
does. She looks like a boss lady. I'm sure she's got jobs galore. I'm not good at clerical, just FYI.
I seen somebody put up a comment on there that it's not only Vietnam, as World War I, II, Korea,
Wolfman.
and I just want everybody to know too that Tours of Duty just recently got back from France. We were in Normandy for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Paul, myself, Scott, and Amanda, Bill, and Ned. We traveled to Normandy. One thing about Normandy, there's a lot of people don't know. Just in France alone, there's 1,600 U.S. soldiers just alone from World War II, from the D-Day invasion and on, of soldiers that are missing there in France. So we went to France, tried to do some research, and we're open to any challenge that we have. And even in Normandy, we had actually Paul and Amanda and myself. We got to get the real feel and experience of what those men were going through on that invasion on June 6, 1944. We were in the Placid Lassie, C-47. She flew in Normandy on the day of D-Day, and we actually flew around, all over, getting the true sights and sounds. I think at one point, Paul, we were in there, and I said, "Paul, close your eyes." Mm-hmm. Those men jumped in Normandy at 2 a.m. and it was daylight when we were flying around. We didn't have enemies, trying to shoot us down. We were there for a pleasure ride in a real authentic plane that was to the T. I mean, the same rivets were flown there 80 years ago on that plane.
Oh, here, I have that video. Would you like me to play it?
Yeah. And, there's Paul and I flying around there, closing our eyes, and just, we flew around Iraq and some of the UH-1s. Paul and I went to Al-Assad and the long trip. I remember that. That's where Paul got the famous #1 photo. But it was like a calming, eerie feeling flying in that plane. It was like, I want to say soothing almost, It just that little hum of the motors. And but then it was, it hit me really hard. There was 101st Airborne Rangers that were, stockpiled in there and getting ready to deploy on the grounds of France. There may have been one of those soldiers that is one of those 1,600 that jumped out of that plane for the freedom of France and to liberate them. And it just was a, really for real moment in my life I'll never forget. Just kind of putting myself in those soldiers' mind. And I know, Paul, you probably could reflect on that too. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think one of the most sobering moments when we were in Deauville, as a matter of fact, a young man, my wife and I sat down to eat dinner, and this guy was in his 20s, young college kid. And he follows us out and he says, sir. And I was like, oh man, my car didn't go through, or something happened, or I forgot something, stuff happens. And he stuck out his hand to shake my hand, and I shook his hand, and he said, I just want to thank you for what your country did for mine in the 1940s, because right now we'd be speaking German if it wasn't for you.
It's impressive coming from a 20-year-old, 27-year-old.
I paused for a minute, and I was like, I was kind of stunned.
I was really.
The only thing I had was, had it not been for your Navy, we wouldn't be America. So thank you. And it was just a really full circle moment. And from the age of 9 to 90, these people had such reverence that they were weepy-eyed when they were thinking these World War II veterans that could make it back, that were there 80 years ago. And it was mind-blowing to see the depth and the level of appreciation from these people.
I'm going to play this video real quick, and it's going to end up muting all of us because the video is going to play. But afterward, Tim, I want you to tell the story that you told me Thursday about the parachute once the video's over. I'm going to
So
stop there. I wanted the picture of the beach for the.
We were flying over right there at Point Duhawk. Actually, as we were flying over, some of our dignitaries were speaking at Point Duhawk at that moment of time. But everybody, researched Point Duhawk and how our Americans and how many lives were lost. By 10 a.m., there's over 4,000 that were killed on the beaches there, and they had to climb a big cliff to take out those German guns. So that the video is flying over Point Duhawk, and I'm not quite sure, but that Placid Lassie flew over that same area 80 years ago. So it's just kind of weird and kind of for real.
Well, like you said, like hearing the hum of that, which to me that's not a hum, it's a loud ass.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang. But that's the last thing those guys heard before they jumped out of that plane, which I get that. I completely see where you're at. For the audio listeners, the video, and if you want to see the video, go to YouTube, watch this episode, fast forward if you've already listened to it, but you can see the video. I know I couldn't let the whole minute play because the audio listeners driving in their car would have been like, holy shit, my radio just broke. But watching it, absolutely phenomenal. And it's amazing to me how aeronautics really haven't changed since then. If you get into a Cessna, it looks the exact same. Now, granted, if you get into a Learjet, a little bit different, but
the importance of the Placid Lassie, why I brought that up again was, the tours of duty going over to France, see what future missions possibly could be there. But Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you. Paul has a great connection on what we're trying to do towards the duty. Again, we have to be funded to send Scott and whoever else wants to volunteer back out there so that we can get our soldiers home. We need funds. And Paul, take it over on how the connection with Placid Lassie and Tobacco Barn.
Yeah, so it was the original conversation happened with retired Admiral Scott Sanders from Tobacco Barn Distillery. And what they do is they focus on bourbon, rum, and I forget what else. But for this particular venture, what he did is their company generously donated an American Standard barrel of bourbon. And the idea was to put it on a bird and carry it over to the commemoration and bring it back. And then, of course, raffle off the bourbon itself. But before I get into bourbon, right quick, Robert Fraser and Sherry, remind me, Amanda, what's Sherry's last name?
It's escaping me at the moment. I apologize.
Okay. Sorry, Sherry. Those two were absolutely instrumental with the Tennyson Foundation, which actually cares for Placid Lassie. And again, like Tim said, she was an original World War II bird. She was part of the invasion and actually flew the original route from Normandy to Berlin, over to Italy, and back to the U.S. So Placid Lassie agreed to carry this bourbon, and it's my understanding that this is the first time in history it's been done. So the bourbon was put into the barrels. It had to take 3 separate barrels because a single barrel was too much volume for the bird and would cause some shifting to go on during flight. So what they did is they broke it down into 3 barrels, took it up in the bird, hopped over to Normandy, and as I understand it, the rocking and the rolling, of the bird causes all of that bourbon to be pushed into the wood and back out, An added thing to that is normally they do that on boats, but this time they did it on the plane, and so there were variated temperatures all the way to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and then also you have the rotors humming as well. So when walking through this with Admiral Sanders, he was trying to explain this to me, and he has an incredible gift of laying out the science of it and how it all came together in a very plain manner. And I'm doing a horrible job right now, but you might have to bring him on sometime to work that out.
I think you're doing great. You got me already. I'm hooked.
Admiral Sanders is one of the most fascinating people you'll ever meet. But anyway, very generous, gave that to us and said, hey, guys, let me donate this to Tours of Duty so that way we can help fund some of these missions. And the plane is back. Tennyson Foundation and Placid Lassie are back home. We've got the barrels back at Tobacco Barn Distillery. They're in the process of bringing the bourbon out of the barrel, putting it through its filtration system, and creating this final product, which should be done. It's anticipated the spring of 2025. We're hoping that it's before that, but each one of these bottles are going to be individually crafted. They're crystal. I forget the name of the company in Scotland that's making them, but every one of them is going to be engraved with the name of the bourbon, the history behind it, the story of it, and there's going to be a special little cap that goes on top of it that your viewers will have to wait to see when we get that finalized. But I think they're going to be incredibly surprised and happy.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple pictures of the barrel. Would you like me to show the barrels?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I don't want to put anything in case it accidentally got sent and it shouldn't have gotten sent.
No, not at all.
So
yeah,
Paul, you want
the
to pull
three
in the names
barrels.
of the barrels?
What's
Oh
that?
yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
No, go ahead, Paul. You got it.
Let me screw this up. Omaha, Neptune. What's the third one?
Utah.
Utah. That's right.
I like it.
Name them off the major engagements. Yeah.
And then I had this picture as well with the torso.
There you go. Yeah, got our company patch on there. Looking sharp.
Heck yeah. So I don't have so the Tunnison Foundation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're partnered up. I don't have a good. Should everything go through toursofduty.org? I want to make sure things are going to funnel to the right place. So, do you want me to put something on for Tunnison or?
So we have some links on our website surrounding the Placid Lassie. They can go under the D-Day anniversary links, and they can link to the Placid Lassie through there. They have been phenomenal. They have the most amazing crew who are also all volunteers, and it's their passion to keep that bird alive and to keep it in the condition that it was in World War II and keep that memory alive. So just an amazing group of people, and we're so grateful to have them as partners on this. Absolutely.
And that's I want to make sure everything's getting funneled, the correct places, because again, I mean the whole thing is huge, and I love the fact that you guys are partnering off to try to get that money in, and anything that I can do from my connections in Cincinnati, I'm definitely going to start pushing your guys' way. I mean, there's no doubt.
Thank you. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah, so to kind of circle back on our original thought line there is that this is a grassroots effort in that you've got a nonprofit that is seeking out the remains of our fallen. You've got an aircraft company by way of Tunnison Foundation who takes care of Placid Lassie. And then you've also got Tobacco Barn Distillery. So you got three organizations together that are under one mission, one mindset of repatriating the heroes that gave everything for what they believed in and for what we enjoy today.
Absolutely. Amen.
Just trying to go through some of the comments here. Just you guys keep chatting.
That's been one of the beauties of this mission is the way that people coalesce around it. And it's been said that it's not a red or a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. There's no political lines here. These are Americans. These are family members. These are loved ones. And these are family members that, again, are here left behind. And everyone can get around this mission in some way or another and support it. It's really beautiful.
So one of the comments that I posted earlier, buddy of ours, James McGee, so Sniper, or Tim, Wolfman from our chapter. He introduced me to this fellow, James McGee, who's right outside Lake Charles. He's retired upper echelon police. I'm going to screw his title up, so I'm not even going to say it. But he was on our podcast. I was on his. He wants to have you on his show, so I'm gonna push you his information as well. But Rich set that up, and he's got all kinds of connections as well that I know are law enforcement, military. So
absolutely. I mean, Jason,
we're gonna push this. We're gonna push this big time.
No, Jason, I appreciate you having us on. Like I said, this is the first time we've really gone public with this. We apologize for some, kind of keeping some things secretive during the mission. But again, it's out of respect for the families.
Absolutely.
I think right now Amanda can go in a little detail on kind of like some of our future missions and about how many cases right now that are active that we're ready to go, but we just don't have the funds to send a team. We have enough guys. We could send 3 or 4 teams over there and do that, but it's the funding. We got to, the flights over there, the equipment. One good thing is, our interpreters, again, it's who and God has blessed me. Our interpreters that were over there were also a family member of one of our warthogs. So it was really good to have that confidence of knowing that here's somebody that can do this language barrier, overcome that with us, with people that we can honestly trust and believe in. So again, there's a whole world of people out there that can help us. We'd love to get this story out on other podcasts. Again, it's just getting this information out and people feeding back to us. I seen somebody popped up that, there was one of his family members died in France too. I mean, if that person didn't come home, that's something, we would like to start picking up and working on. But again, we're kind of trapped right now. Amanda has all these cases ready to roll. She has a team of experts and guys ready to go out there and deploy on this. We just need some funding.
Right. And
we'll do everything we can to funnel some toward you. I mean, the little podcast that we are, but we're the little podcast that could. So,
yeah,
every bit helps. Every volunteer, every dollar, everything makes a difference in this mission. And we saw that quite literally on the mission to Vietnam. When things would pop up, it was by the grace of God, literally another donation would pop in and it would cover the cost. It would just perfectly. So, we truly appreciate everyone and every contribution that's made across the board. Tim was talking about the future missions. We have about half a dozen cases right now that we have good, solid information on that we would like to investigate for families. We were recently contacted about cases both in Guadalcanal and in the Philippines. We're evaluating those. We're going through the process to see what evidence is there, if there's anything actionable, and what we can do to support the families on it. But we do have 6 cases for Southeast Asia that we would like to get to before the end of the year. And some of that is investigative work. Some of that is a little bit more advanced than investigative work. And then also working, as Scott said earlier, to acquire some of that more advanced technology. We would love to have a LiDAR unit of our own. We're working with a company right now who is very graciously offering to allow us to utilize it at no cost, but we'd like to get those units and that equipment in-house so that we can perform what we need to when we go to these sites.
Your staff, what kind of staffing are you looking at, like as a total? Like, let's just say your roster. Maybe everybody's not available to go everywhere, and I understand that. But, on a roster list, just a vague number.
A vague number. So we have about 16 who are full-time in this every week. They're in the meetings and the calls. And then the roster for the individuals who can go do advanced work, overseas investigative work, archival research, whatever it may be. We have several dozen on the roster, people waiting. Yeah.
It's good. It's.
And you want to touch base on some of the other facilities that are assisting us and as far as DNA and what we're doing with, if we find an Asian or a Western?
Yeah, so DNA has certainly been a challenge. And then having those family reference samples is also a challenge, even for our own government. We do have a laboratory who is willing to take on those samples, compare them, and get the analysis back within a very short period of time. Unfortunately, when the analysis goes through the lab out in Hawaii, it really is an extended period of time to get those results back. So if we're able to facilitate that for the family members, get those confirmations, at least to a high degree of probability, again, it's another layer of closure for that family to have a good idea as to what happened.
And, Jason, when we were in France, we had the privilege of escorting and being a part of 4 World War II veterans that were with us. And, we were in the parades, we were at cemeteries with them, but there was 4 soldiers in their hundreds. And that's World War II. Again, like having those comrades telling us, what happened and where they're at, that history's gone. They're leaving us at a rapid pace.
Absolutely.
We have Korea, we have Vietnam. I mean, this is why it's important. You know, we don't have, you know, time to waste on some of this. If there's information, we want to be able to get it directly connected to, you know, DNA and get these families closure, because we're not going to live forever.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's why it's important, you know, having us do it without, you know, all the bureaucracy and all the red tape. We could just contract it out and get the results in it a lot quicker. So that's what Towards the Duty is trying to do.
And the government believes that we have about 3 years left for the Vietnam War before we really don't have those resources anymore, before we don't have those people available to us, whether it's due to lifespan or memory or whatever might be the case. But they really feel that there's about a 3-year window that we have remaining to capture the information that's out there.
So to kind of tie a bow on this, Tim, I told you I wanted you to tell me the story. Tell everybody the story about the parachute and the silk and the I can't remember the name of the town in France that you told me, because, well, there were a few Miller Lights involved that night, but you could pay me $1 million and I wouldn't be able to name the town. But I thought it was just such a cool, just a neat story, because a lot of people in this country don't even realize it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with the patriotism that France had. Once you got outside of Paris, pretty much every house had a flag. They were celebrating the 80th anniversary of being liberated. They were held prisoner. They were murdered. They were raped. There was a lot of ungodly things that were going on during those 4 years. And it was the U.S., England, Canada that stormed those beaches and liberated them. And a lot of those soldiers jumped in parachutes, and you know, our troops had silk parachutes, and they cut them and left them. But when we went through the 101st Airborne Museum right there, those parachutes were held sacred to the French people. They took those parachutes and made wedding gowns out of them. And their families their French families over years passed down a wedding gown and get married. And at one time was the canopy of our soldier jumping into France to liberate them. So it's like a ticker tape parade there. The World War II vets that we had with us, I mean, people were running up to them, hugging them, kissing them, and, just victory, and dressed up to mimic the same era of World War II soldiers. Their families were there. Their kids were there dressed up as World War II soldiers, saluting and waving American flags. And it was just really awesome to see. It was like, if I can put it in words, it was like our 4th of July that we only have once a year. They did this whole week and celebrating 80 years ago, and they haven't forgot what Americans did for them. And that was just so great, to see.
I think when you told me that, I was like, it's amazing where a lot of that is lost, even here in our homeland. It's lost.
Yeah,
and that's the scary part.
There than most cities on 4th of July here.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick ad read if you guys are good with it. If you guys don't mind, so that way, as I say, the bills get paid, but we'll see how that works. So we're going to talk about the Varner Netherton Foundation for Children and Families. We want to take a moment to talk about foster care. We believe those who open their hearts and their homes to take care of kids are among the most special of our friends and neighbors. It could be a strain on anyone's budget, and sadly, more than half give up in their first year of fostering because the resources just aren't there. That's where the Varner Foundation comes in. A 501c3 nonprofit, the Varner Foundation enables foster care agencies to help in a hurry. A car repair, a prescription, an extra bed, even a new pair of shoes. And many times, a single phone call gets it done. He does this to me every time. 100% of the money donated to the Varner Foundation, stay by, goes to the mission, period. You heard that. You heard that right, 100%. I'm buddies with him, and he wrote this, and he gets me every time. You can help me make a difference in a child's life today. Donate to the Varner Foundation. That's the varnerfoundation.org. varnerfoundation.org. Dan's a really close friend of ours, and he's been a charter member of this podcast, so he's helped us out a ton. Musician, philanthropist. I mean, he does it all. So he's I guarantee you I can get him hooked up with you guys because he's huge into the military. He's got military in his family. I'm going to reach out. He's one of my first calls I'm going to make. But we're definitely going to make something happen for you guys, because what you guys are doing is unbelievable. And Tim, I can't thank you enough for coming to me Thursday. I had no idea you were involved in this, had no idea what this was. And since Thursday, I've been talking about it and spouting it out, probably to nauseum to people. I'm like, dude, you got to check this podcast out. It's going to be awesome. Not just because it's mine, it's because the story that's behind it. So everything you guys have done, I cannot commend you enough. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, it's amazing. In a short period, Scott was able to do what Amanda wanted him to do and march to her orders, and we recovered 4 U.S. soldiers. So,
They're
to be
home.
continued, and we are going to have more information, and we'd love to come back on and give you the final answers on what we have, and we'd like to tell you more about the next mission that we conquer.
There is always an open door at the One More and I'm Out of Here podcast for you guys, because I want to get involved however I can, and Tim, I'll get with you, at some point and see how I can get involved, one way or another, because this mission I believe is absolutely needed and not being done completely by other entities, but you guys have taken the bull by the horns and you're making it happen, which I appreciate, and I know everybody that has lost somebody appreciates. That closure is huge. So,
yeah, we have a couple upcoming events too.
oh yeah, I wanted to get to
we did talk about the Placid Lassie that flew towards the duty and our donated bourbon there from Tobacco Barn. They are going to be right here in Conneaut, Ohio, on August 15th through the 17th. In Ohio, they have one of the largest in America D-Day reenactment ceremonies, and it's right here, on Lake Erie, shores of beautiful Lake Erie. So August 15th to the 17th, the Placid Lassie, they make a couple trips and doing some of these things, but they're going to be at the Conneaut D-Day, and we're going to have some of our tours of duty. Amanda will be there if you want to meet her in person. Scott will be there in person. Hopefully Paul can get up here up north. He's normally down in Texas and Florida, but hopefully we can get him up there too. But Tours of Duty will be there. We'll have some T-shirts there for our D-Day fundraiser. If anybody is looking for any type of fundraiser swag, we have coins and T-shirts. 9 Line T-shirts. Tyler over there has been a great supporter of our foundation and raising money for tours. He made a beautiful line of shirts. So we're going to have some more there. We also have coming up on September 19th to the 20th. We're trying to get some guys to ride to Arlington. Scott will be kind of pointing in on that, but we're going to be leaving Ohio, going to Washington, D.C., and laying a wreath on our missing in action unknown soldiers, POWs, and at the cemetery. So that'll be September 19th and 20th, and Tours of Duty will also be a part of that. And then we have some tentative events in Tampa, Florida, 9/22. We'll have all this information out on our Tours of Duty website, and we're trying to get the Heroes Run also in Tampa, Florida, on 9/28, September 28th. So there's more details on that. Again, we'll get those put up on our Tours of Duty so that people can come out, meet some of us face to face, talk about some of this. And again, it's real important if there's somebody out there that has a loved one that's still missing and they are doing that investigation on their own, contact us. We have a lot of professionals here, a lot of guys that are looking to fill these missing puzzle pieces and bring them home. And again, the only way we could do it is with support from people that are hearing this. So share it so that you could. All we need is 1 or 2 people that we don't have to beg for money and sell T-shirts. We need some serious contributions to come here. And honestly, I mean, we're not getting paid for this, but we are trying to bring back our soldiers, our loved ones, these family members. Gold Star families deserve it. And we're going to use every dollar that we get and make sure that we are finding people. And again, what amazes me, this team of Tours of Duty in a month's time, ready to deploy on, information, and 4 soldiers are going to be coming home.
when we tune out, do you guys have to run super quick, or do you got a couple seconds when we tune out?
We're good. I'm good.
You got time?
Cool, because I have an idea. David Brashear says, "Tell us where we can pick up a bottle of that bourbon."
That link will be coming up in the middle of August.
As soon as he gets the link, I'll put it on my stuff as well. Anybody that tuned in new to this podcast because it got pushed out, a bunch, which I love and I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening, down the road. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Listen to a few. You may like it, you may not, and that's fair. We all like what we like, and we don't what we don't. But if you do listen to it audio wise, download. Listens don't count. So any podcast that you listen to, this is just out there for anybody that doesn't know. If you just listen to a podcast, whoever's podcasting that doesn't get that analytic. So you need to download the actual podcast and leave a 5-star rating and review. That's the way it is. That's the way it works. But we're gonna tone out of here. But guys, I cannot tell you how great it was to meet some of you. I already know 2 of you. The other 2, awesome to meet you, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person because I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the last time that we meet. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
And anything that you guys have, either push it to Tim or you guys have and I'll give you a better email as well. You have the podcast email. I'll get you my email, and then anything you guys have that you want to shoot to me, more than happy to put it on my stuff, the Facebook or the podcast Facebook page, all of it. So we will definitely be pushing you guys out. So appreciate you guys so much. And if you sit tight for a second, everybody else that's in the chats and that tuned in, thank you so much. I hope you learned a little bit of stuff that you had no idea was happening. And if you can find it in your heart to support this great cause, please do so. And we'll see you sometime this weekend. I'm not sure. Pappas is out of town, so whenever he gets done gallivanting around, we'll be back on for more of our debauchery. So we'll see you guys this weekend sometimes. Take care.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.